You are live.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee meeting to order for November 20th. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting. You see a motion. Supervisor McDevitt, second. Supervisor Driscoll. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Anyone wish to speak? Privilege of the floor. Yes, sir. No?
I brought this issue up earlier, and I was hoping to actually see the sheriff here to see what his input might be. But it costs us a great deal of money to staff the jails, and New York State requires that the staff equal the number of beds that we have. I know Mr. McDevitt, Supervisor McDevitt, and myself brought up this issue many years ago, got like 6-7 years ago, when it looked like we were first told that we had to staff fully for those 184 beds that we have. And we asked the sheriff at that time whether or not we could close down a pod, for instance. And he says, well, the state says no, can't do it. Since then, we've had reform, and state's been shutting down their own prisons. Other counties have been shutting down. It's accepted at this point in time. And I was wondering whether or not we should revisit that subject, because we do have 184 beds in the 4 pods. We have an average census less than 100 inmates at any point in time. And it would seem like that's in excess of beds. In addition, New York State throws these rules at us, many other rules too that we think don't make a whole lot of sense, but we have to comply with them. It doesn't mean we have to do it without thought, however. And, when they say you have to staff for the number of beds you have, then maybe you do want to reduce the number of beds if you don't need them. In addition, New York State has gone ahead and said, there's certain protected classes of people. One of them are like lesbians, transgender, bisexual, etc. And Broome County recently got into a problem, or I don't know, recently, within the last several years, was sued by a lesbian and said that she wasn't properly detained in that prison. She won the suit, or she, I don't know what, won the suit. And some accommodations were agreed to. And in addition, I think the person was rewarded with $160,000 from the county. This is something that we don't want to find out that we're in a similar situation. So what I think you ought to be considering is, rather than just simply shutting down one of the 4 pods, and there's 46 units, 46 beds per pod. Okay, so if you were to shut down one pod, you have 138 left for a census that's generally in the 90s. Seems pretty good, but then you have an empty pod. That empty pod, if you went ahead and partitioned it, if you took out, instead of having 46 beds in there, if you removed, say, 40 beds, and you left 6 beds in there partitioned, and you said, I'll have, my L go here, my G go here, my B go here, my T go here, and whatever protected class they want to add next year, go someplace else. That might be a better situation than you have now. And in addition, be able to reduce the number of beds, the number of staffing. Now, it costs over $2 million a year to staff a pod. $2 million a year, every year. That's a big hit. And the potential for being not in compliance for LGBT. That's another consideration. So I would hope that the administration here, Mr. Taplin, the sheriff, who I wish had been here, but I don't see, maybe he has a representative here I'm not aware of, But I would hope that these things be discussed seriously, these concerns be discussed seriously before they impact us negatively, either in the next budget or perhaps in a lawsuit. So I implore you to take these concerns into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for your information, everybody's information, the sheriff is out today on the previous schedule that he had. These meetings typically take place on Tuesdays. And because of Thanksgiving, it was moved up. So the sheriff had this schedule quite some time ago. He has agreed to provide us with a briefing on this particular issue at a future meeting. So we'll keep you posted. Well, thank you. Any other privilege of the floor? Comments from the committee? If not, we'll begin with the probation agenda. Our director is here. We have one request. That is to continue the agreement with Language Line Services for interpreting services in the amount of $1,000 annually. Bob?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Yes, this is an extension of the contract we have for Language Line for interpreting services. It's by phone. On occasion, we do need interpreters for our business. What I would ask for is to continue the contract for $1,000 annually, and that way we can continue it, so I don't have to come back and ask for it to be renewed.
Okay, motion moved. Supervisor Leggett, second, Supervisor McDevitt. Question.
On the former resolution, there was $4,750.
We reduced that during the year to only 1,000.
Okay,
I mean, we won't need any more than that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Good morning, Rob. American Sign Language, how does that work? In the event that you need to,
We would have to bring somebody in for that.
okay,
We would
that'd
not
be a
be,
local
we
person.
would be, yes, that'd be a local person, whoever we could find before.
Okay.
We've used different people from schools, so we would have to have that individual come in
Okay.
person.
Great, thanks.
Any other comments?
If I could just recommend that it would be for the first year and then renewable for 2 additional terms.
Agreed.
Read, second. Okay, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Bob, you got one discussion item, which is electronic monitoring?
Yeah, just to keep everybody updated, last time I was up, we talked about electronic monitoring going into effect on September 1 for our raise the age population, which is 14 to 17. We've discussed detention issues through all of this year. Last time I was here, we had 5. We're down to 3, so it's actively being used, and I suspect a couple more may be coming out in the near future. So again, that's something I think that we're finding not only saves us money, but it saves us all time and effort when we need to find detention for juvenile. So it continues to go well, and I will keep it on the agenda just to keep people updated of what happens, what's transpiring.
Terrific, thank you. Any questions, comments for our director? No? Supervisor Leggett?
Just on the heels of the other discussion about pods and whatnot, so with bail reform and such, through your office, do you come into play, does your office come into play at all on who comes through and goes off to jail or not?
We don't. On bail reform, we get cases assigned to us from the courts, typically released under supervision instead of, very few offenses are bail eligible anymore. So a lot of the ones are released, and a lot of the times the courts have the individual supervised by our department. So we don't really have a say. Unfortunately, they just come to us and we deal with them.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
But Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you.
Next is the Office of Emergency Services. Our Director, Emery Mason, is here. We've got, let's see, I think 7 action items. A couple of them will combine, but the first one is a resolution to amend Resolution 134 of 2023, authorizing submission of a grant application to the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for the fiscal year 22 hazardous material emergency preparedness grant for the local emergency planning committee, and authorizes Adirondack Regional Hazmat Consortium to submit the grant application and to increase the not to exceed amount. That's a lot of words, but Emery, go ahead.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, basically what it is there's a 25% match for this grant. And the match is to be met over the 7 counties that are in the consortium. Typically, there's been in the past difficulty trying to get an in-kind match to bring the counties together, whether it be for training and that kind of thing. So what we'd like to do is to be able to use the in-kind services, but also if that falls short, to be able to bill each county for a cash match.
Motion move forward,
So moved.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yep.
Second, Supervisor McDevitt. Questions, comments? Seeing none? Supervisor Leggett.
On this all together,
I believe this one might be to August, but I'd have to double check on that.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you. With online training and technology and the ability to in some cases to do training virtually, does that increase the opportunities to maybe
It-
get more of that in kind?
Yep, so it would increase the opportunities to do that. However, there was one grant year where there was a training developed. And it just did not have enough people that took it
Okay.
to be able to make the match. So, but yeah, we can definitely explore that as well to make up some of the 25%.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Thank you. Second is a resolution request to approve contingency management consulting group to use as a subcontractor, conduct a commodity flow study for the 7-county Adirondack Regional Hazmat Consortium. Emery?
Right. So we are looking to use emergency management consulting to work with us on the commodity flow study. The last one was done in 2016, so it does need to be updated. And this group, from what we're looking at, does have extensive experience with flow studies.
Motion to move this forward. Supervisor McGowan. Second, Supervisor Leggett. Question, Supervisor
right,
Leggett.
so we're contracting with somebody that's going to subcontract. Why don't we just contract with the subcontractor?
Well, we actually did a bid for this particular service, so we do have to go through the company that won the bid. And they were able to provide us with this other company that is more familiar with commodity flow studies.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Chairman. I do apologize for being a little behind schedule this morning. Emery, you do such a great job down there and with all the reports and studies you put, you can't handle this yourself? Just all that. I take it that's a
Maybe if it
no.
was just Warren County, it'd be okay, but you know.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carry. Thank you very much. I'm gonna recommend, unless there's any objection, to combine items 3, 4, and 5. Each one of them relates to 2024 budget amendments to accommodate for the 2021, 22, and 23 hazardous material preparedness grants. So I'll ask for a motion to move that forward. Supervisor Leggett, second, Supervisor McGowan. Is there any discussion, Emery, on this?
Nope, I just wanted to kind of mention that the state was late getting out their FY21 application. They issued the 21 and 22 applications together. That's why we've got both of them in here, and they issued them both at the same amount, so we have some money to get through.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you need this all done before the end of the year?
Well, it depends. I'm not sure how the budgeting wise, or if it has to go through finance committee to be able to be moved. Go ahead, Amanda.
So it does have to go through finance, but these are all for 2024, so you won't actually see these till January.
Till January. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we're figuring. Mhm.
Any other questions or comments for Emery on this? Supervisor McGowan?
Yeah, but better late than never, huh?
Yes.
New York State, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 6 is a request to transfer funds from regular salaries to retirement in the amount of $202.39. Any need for discussion on this, Emery?
Nope, we just needed to correct the deficit that was in the retirement portion of that.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Driscoll, second Supervisor McGowan. Any comments, questions? Supervisor Leggett.
This comes back onto the administration, how we do things, $202 coming all through committee. Well, this happens quite a lot on smaller change items there. If there is some way that in the future, perhaps there's a policy from the county that gives authority We will sign off of the chair of the committee, so that doesn't have to go through all of this.
Understood. Okay, thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 7 is a resolution request to approve updates to the public access defibrillation program plan for Warren County. Anne Marie?
Actually, we went through that and there were no updates for this year. So we just changed the date on the bottom to show that it was reviewed and
Okay, motion to move this forward. Supervisor McGowan, second Supervisor McDevitt. Any further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Emery, you've got a discussion item, which is that the county administrator would look into whether similar blanket authorization of grant applications provided to the Office of Emergency Services could be extended to other departments. I don't know if the administrator or you want to address it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, last meeting, we gave the Office of Emergency Services, Anne Marie, and the ability to apply for a number of grants, kind of a blanket. You can, she could apply for all these, whether it's 3 grants, I think you would.
yeah, there was at least 3.
Great.
Mhm. Yep.
And so the recommendation was that we consider doing this for other departments. And we looked into that and the dynamics and the various, I mean, there's so many different types of grants out there that we apply for. And I think our recommendation is, I know our recommendation is not to apply this blanket approach to all departments. We'd like to have visibility on a lot of the grants that they apply for individually. We think it's important for the committee and the board to see some of these. So our recommendation is this was kind of a unique situation with emergency services, but we would not like to do that for the rest of the departments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Emery, anything else you want to add to that?
I don't.
Supervisor McGowan?
Thank you. Yeah, just to refresh my memory, I remember talking about that. And really for grants, and I believe we talked about the understanding of, knowing what's going on and the money that's coming in. And I thought it was we talked about, and I understand it, and I'm not trying to that it was going to be brought up in a discussion of that, but it's, receiving money in, what I'm saying, but and understanding and if it's a grant and we're able to get a revenue out of it, it's a positive thing for the county for sure. I was just hoping maybe we could change something where some of these grants, maybe as Supervisor Leggett has said, that our administrator could, get an okay, and then it could be put on afterwards, so we're aware of what's going on. Is that something possible? Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking the administrator,
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We can look at that. We thought that the individuality of some of these grants were important to bring to the committees, but I can certainly go back and look at that and come up with maybe an alternative recommendation.
I mean, we're still gonna be able to see them, if it's under discussion item or in the next package, but as Anne Marie brought up earlier, some of these grants is, like, hey, we're getting caught up for 2 years with New York State. What if something came up and said, hey, well, geez, we forgot to put this grant out, she has a week to do it, And that was, I think, the reason why we went this direction, so this way it gives a little bit more flexibility and if we can't trust you, then we got issues, you know what I mean?
Supervisor.
Thank you, Chairman. I would concur with that, although grants that have any type of a match, I think that we would need to
Amen.
scrutinize those a little bit more than those that don't.
Good. Anything else for Emery? Okay, thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it. Excuse me. Next up is the sheriff's agenda. We have the undersheriff with us this morning. We got 4 items. I'm going to recommend that we combine 3 and 4. So we'll start with 1, which is a transfer of funds within the 2023 sheriff's office budget to address deficits in salary code. Undersheriff.
Yes, we're requesting for money to be transferred within our budget to take care of salary codes for law enforcement corrections and 911 center overtime is in deficit at this point. So we have, we've transferred from corrections regular, corrections part-time, communications regular, corrections part-time, and law enforcement regular. We have some surplus money in that, and we have still surplus money in that. We did not drain those funds down to zero.
Okay, motion moves forward. Supervisor Leggett, second Supervisor McGowan. Any comment or question on this? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Second item is to transfer funds from the sheriff's 911 center to the 911 salaries regular.
I would ask that 41,383, we to strike that right now. That is in our budget at this point. We had a conversation with the treasurer's office. I don't know if the sheriff had reached out to you, but we'd like to strike that one out of this at this point.
Okay, so without objection, we'll remove this from the items. Okay, ma'am. All right, got a recommendation to combine 3 and 4. This is in reference to grant applications to the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. Without objection, I'll ask for a motion to move it. Supervisor McGowan, second. Supervisor Driscoll. Comments or questions for the undersheriff on this?
We're ratifying what happened before we got to here. What was that about?
For number 2, sir?
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Number 4.
Well, I'm sorry, number.
So ratifying our actions in regard to the submission of an application for New York State Division of Homeland Security Emergency Services 2023 Public Safety Answering Point Operation Grant. So that's ratifying. So you had already taken actions.
Yeah, well, yes, sir. We have applied for it and we have received the 165,000. If you look at the very last page. For the 165,990, the date is October 24th. We only have until December 31st to make a plan, order anything that we'd like to order, and then receive that before December 31st. It's an impossibility to do that. So we are taking actions to accept that grant and put it forward. We've been having discussions with the treasurer's office to put that money into salaries for communications, which is allowable by the grant to do that, just so we can get that entire 165, which is up from years past, by the way. So we can at least have that money. And then our plan is to come back to you in committee and to use that money, that 165 that we're saving in salaries, and move that into a project that we can manage ourselves. We don't have to have it all done within a month, which is just an impossibility, sir, at this point.
Linda?
And I just want to clarify that in your motion, you're ratifying the actions in regard to submission of the application, authorizing a grant agreement and a budget amendment. It's like, correct?
Yes.
That's more than just ratifying the application.
Okay. All right, have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Supervisor McGowan.
Yeah, this brings us back to what we discussed earlier about grants and stuff like that with, I can't reprimand you for moving quickly on this, but you did what you had to do, and this is a perfect example of why sometimes we need a little latitude when something comes up like this and doing it. So, with your punishment, I'm also giving you a huge thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the punishment.
I would hate to lose that 165,000.
I agree.
All set. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, anything else you have for us? Sheriff?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it.
I will.
Last up this morning is the district attorney's office. We have the district attorney with us. Thank you.
Come down with it.
Thank you. There's one item that's to seek permission to enter an MOU with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's our first item, and that is the Capital Region Crime Analysis Center has reached out to us there's one of 10 in the state of New York that really they do all kinds of things. For a county like us, they would do different services than they would do for, say, Albany County, where there's a lot of gun violence and a lot of maybe gang violence. And to be honest, I've actually been working with them over the years. But they've now gotten permission from the governor to expand services in a broader way, I would say, and including Warren County. So this MOU would permit us to continue to work with them, but I guess on a more formal basis. The last time I used them was I had a persistent felony offender hearing, and I wanted the subject of the hearing, the defendant was an Albany County resident, and they were actually able to, in about 2 days, get me information that I would have had to go to all these other resources and sort of do my own search. They have access because of this agreement to more databases. They're able to get me a lot of really valuable information that was helpful in the hearing. So anyway, that's what that piece is. There's no cost to the county. It's really not, I'm not sure why, like I said, I've worked with them pre-MOU, but because they've been given the permission to expand their services into including Warren County, we want to be a part of that.
Okay. Motion to move forward, Supervisor Leggett, second. Supervisor Driscoll.
And this will be in a form acceptable to the attorney, because these are the 2009 samples. So
There's some old samples. So the way I got here is I sent it to the county attorney's office. They said, no, you got to go here first. So I'm here first, and I probably would send it back to Larry's office to just make sure they're giving it the thumbs up.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yeah, thank you. Just really, it just baffles me, something so simple. And a simple little expansion, but how it's made, it makes your job easier. Due to, being able to, and for no cost. Why
It's
is
phenomenal.
this so complicated?
Well, it is, because there is a cost. The state, though, thank God, is funding it. They've really increased the funding to these agencies. And I think, to me, the reason this is moving forward is technology is moving at such a fast pace. They have realized we need people who are really looking at the bigger pieces and putting it all together. So I think what it'll do is make me and my office better at our jobs, and we'll have more information faster. I know they've been turning around like shell casing information for some of the bigger counties really fast, which might take a month. They're turning into 2 days. It's also making all these connections with all these counties, because as we know, something happening in Albany could be they're 30, 45 minutes away from here. And so I'm hopeful this is going to really be just another tool in the tool bag to help hopefully solve crime, and maybe, I don't know if it would reduce it, unfortunately, because everything it happens and then you respond to it. But yeah, it's pretty neat. I've been there. It's a phenomenal facility. I've been to the old one and now to the new one, which is pretty remarkable.
Supervisor Leggett.
And so this is going to be wrapping in the whole state. We're dealing with Albany or Center, but they must be.
Yeah, so we're going to be connected to the Albany unit, but they're connected to the other 9 or 10. They may be 10 or 11. And there might be a new one coming online, but they're going to focus capital region areas, and that's where their data points are. But their whole goal is gathering as much as they can, including maybe even out of state. As you know, you get to Albany, going over to Massachusetts, you're not going far. Here, Vermont, I mean, I have a case that's got Vermont ties and New York ties that I personally drove to Vermont to get digital evidence they couldn't send to me because it was too big. So having those connections is just it's great. And, we have a lot of crime that's just focused right here. We have a lot that is, and this hopefully will help us deal with those issues.
Any other questions?
Just one thing I mentioned to the chairman, all the information in our packet is basically from the past, and when you get together with the attorney's office, nowhere in here does it say Warren County. So that, and I understand the premise behind that, but so these are just examples of what's happened in the past, and you're going to be updating that. I just didn't, maybe I missed something, but somewhere in here does it mention basically that we're.
So on my first 2 pages for me, it's the Warren County agreement, I believe, DCJS with Warren County DA's office. And then all the rest are those appendix.
Okay.
And those appendix are just showing you, because this one does reference some of that.
Okay,
I mean, I think Albany's been with the unit for maybe more than 10 years. So yeah,
I saw that, so this would be basically the MOU.
I think so, because
Okay,
if you
all
look
right.
inside, it might reference into some of the pieces of
Okay,
the old
all
ones.
right.
All right, any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. One other item is a modified resolution 145 of 2019 that has to do with the maximum annual cap on special prosecutors. Jason?
Thank you. This is something, and I think it's worth mentioning because a lot of people don't know how it works. You're pretty familiar with the public defender system. If someone is eligible for public defenders, they get an assignment. If they have a conflict, it just goes to the assigned counsel office. And then they handle those at the 18B rate, which is now, I think, 158 an hour. We don't do that as a DA's office. So when we get a conflict, that case will go to other counties. Typically, the court can ask them if they'll agree to do it, and then they can say no, and sometimes they do. Vice versa, we take on all the time special prosecutions. Typically, but not always, you're talking Essex, Washington, Saratoga. So we go to those jurisdictions and prosecute those cases with the resources we have. We're doing that, and we're asking the same of them. This is so if you think about this, and it's not by way of comparison, but I don't know what the assigned counsel budget is, but I'm gonna assume it's over $1 million. This is our little piece to get someone when we're struggling to get another county to grab something. And they tend to be low level. So this would cover traffic tickets and 3 local court misdemeanor only conflicts. We've hired someone, he's doing it. He's in my conversations, he sees the 18B has more than doubled. And he could go do very little work and may have a much easier setup. So we're trying to raise that cap so that we can hopefully renegotiate with that special prosecutor. He does not work for me. If you really think about it, it just runs through our office, but he's an independent person who works for the county to handle some low-level conflict issues. So if we had a full conflict office, I mean, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more, to do these kinds of cases. So these are small, and that's the purpose of it. Doesn't mean that whoever does this work is going to get that. It just brings that cap up to give us room to hopefully cover this expense.
All right, motion move this request forward. Supervisor McGowan, second. Supervisor McDevitt, questions on this?
And
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you. You foresaw this coming. Is there anything in your budget for that?
Yeah, we went to budget first with this, and obviously if it's not there, we can't spend it, right?
Right.
This is just a cap. It's not a promise to spend. It's not the goal to spend to the cap. But the cap was, as you could see, was very low back in 2019. So this gives us a little more wiggle room. And my fear is what could happen is if our person doing it says, look, I just can't do it for what you're paying right now, what the county pays. What I've seen other counties do is if a DA's office won't grab it, they just assign it to a private attorney. And that private attorney is now at an hourly rate of 158. And that, I mean, you can see how quickly you could go way over these numbers very, very fast. We're lucky to have good relationships with these other DA's offices, and they're willing to take on these conflicts. And of course, part of the reason why they do that is because we're willing to take on conflicts, and we do, regularly, I would say.
There's no I in team. So, I just wanted to make sure that you had something in your budget just in case, because over the past 6 months, all we've heard was, with the public defenders and, and you've also, but the cost of things, and as we all know, cost of things have gone up. So, all right.
Chairman, just one question. Who's the special prosecutor that we're signing the agreement with?
Well, there's a current agreement with Tim Alden, who's a retired judge and lawyer. He does have to have malpractice insurance to do it, and he has to agree. So we're going to be obviously communicating with him and saying, will you continue going forward? We've had different people who you need the right person to do that job, because you can't have someone with a full-time job. You can't have someone who's doing full-time defense and then also prosecuting on the side. So it's really kind of a particular special person that fits all the criteria.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Jason, you have a reciprocity with the other counties for some cases, but this is different than that, like.
Right, so for example, Peter McDevitt gets a traffic ticket. He's on the board of supervisors. That would never happen, but imagine that it did. He gets a traffic ticket. Has an influence on our budget. We would see that as a conflict to be prosecuting that ticket. We don't have to go contact another DA's office and say, can you go to wherever it is, Glens Falls City Court, and do this? They'll handle that ticket and it's completely independent. Whatever, we won't even really know what's happened with it. If we see it, we send it out. Whereas if it's other things, the court has to do the assignment. So say it's a felony, it's a serious crime, it's in an area that isn't encompassed by this small agreement, then another county would have to go deal with that. And that can be a challenge for the other counties who also have these special prosecutors to a certain degree doing this work. And they're trying to send out and take bigger cases, I think, rather thin every little small thing that comes about, because it's a burden on their resources. And the resources, since the discovery laws have changed, have really gotten stretched, thin back in 2020.
Thank you for that clarification.
Other questions on that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Jason, anything else for us?
I just wanted to comment on the grant situation. We generally can predict to a degree what's coming, but not always. We did have one. It was a super oddball grant for domestic violence. I thought it was written in a way for it not to work. And it was this fast turnaround and a lot of rules and a lot of things. We wanted to at least try to take advantage of it. I can't remember how we managed to squeeze it in, but there are times that I've seen, and that was one of them where I'm like, I can't believe this ridiculous timeline. But you don't want to miss out on the opportunity. So that is an issue we have faced. And I realize, and I agree, you want to know what's going on, what money's coming in. Is there, of course, a match that's critical to the county? So I'm just saying that to say we experienced that once before, and I don't remember how we figured it out. I think I called you. I think I was with my dad who was ill, and I called you from that situation, and we figured something out. But at any rate, so that's just something, my 2 cents on that.
Good. All right. Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, I read about the DA's office and the Sun Community News. So, and you gave congratulations to the ADAs and others that were involved. So thank you so much for your persistence on that and success.
That was, we had 2 weeks ago, we had 2 jury trials, one starting on a Wednesday in Queensbury Court, which was 2 days, and then one in county court that lasted about a week. The one in Queensbury was our ADA's first ever jury trial, so there was a lot of preparation with her and another attorney helping her, and she prevailed in that. The other one involved something might be a registrable offense, and the attorney got guilty on all 3 counts on that. But that was a lot of work, a lot of stress. We had some late nights here in the office debating legal issues and whatnot. So that was a good week for us.
Got a good team.
I think so.
Supervisor
Just wanted,
Driscoll.
thank you, Chairman. Comment on Judge Alden. I've known Tim for a number of years. He's a well-respected attorney. He's also very involved in the Tri-County community, and people know who he is and trust and respect his judgment.
I totally agree. It's just great. I hope he sticks around. Because when you have someone like that, he's able probably to resolve cases because people know who they're talking to. Other attorneys are familiar with him. He's excellent.
All right. We thank the district attorney for being with us personally and addressing these issues. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Is over the floor? See anything else? Seeing none, let me just wish our members and your families a healthy and happy Thanksgiving. Accept the motion to adjourn. Supervisor McGowan, second. Supervisor McDevitt. Any question or discussion? All in favor? Opposed?